After watching the problem we all live with, I kind of noticed in the first podcast it was talking about the No Child Left Behind and comparing the education of the white community to the black community, and it was kind of obvious that in like lower income level neighborhoods that there's a clear disadvantage of the educational fields. In the second podcast, it was kind of discussing in the beginning a little bit about being around different races and what they think kind of benefits from that or disadvantages from that, in the sense that like if you're doing a normal action that everyone does and a person isn't represented well, like the person's race isn't represented well in the school, it can kind of come across like something about them or something about their color of their skin or their ethnicity. Some of the thoughts that I thought when I was listening to the podcast is I was pretty frustrated. It's 2017 and I feel like race and like ethnic levels and all that stuff, it matters and it really shouldn't. I think education is precious, and I mean, I think everyone deserves a right to good education and good schools. I know I personally took my education for granted. You know, in our second lesson, we're talking about the movie Waiting for Superman, and that's all about, you know, a lottery to see who gets into like the school, and if you don't, then what are you going to do for education? I think education can help, you know, change a kid's life. You know, if you're stuck in the same habits, going to a bad school, you know, you're not getting motivated, you're not putting the efforts where we really need them, and then you're not really going to break the cycle. It's going to be hard for kids to break out of that cycle. I think that it's sad that a kid can be one of the only ethnic kids at that school, and like Kiana said in the second podcast, that she was kind of being naive to like other cultures or whatever, and then once a kid said like they're sleeping over at her boyfriend's house or something, she was like, oh, is that because of my race? Or like, I would never do that, and it's just a normal thing that kids kind of do. I think that this information affects a kid in an educational institute, because segregation schools was kind of mentioning that they'll never catch up. Kids will get bad teachers. It creates large educational gaps, and it's hard to break that cycle of, you know, getting the kids a good education. The stigma of education is also another part of like the second podcast, is that when the second podcast they're talking about the Lego labs and they're turning off the lights and you can see, you know, the whole planetarium, there's an aquatics lab. Like the fact that they have a Lego lab in their school versus other schools can't even supply computers for the whole class, like that does segregate the school, and that does clearly make a distinct separation. And with that second video is kind of talking about what are some ways that you could share learning with your fellow educators and start on the field, like maybe not integrating schools more and don't educate based off of race. Like it should be kind of open for everyone and open for kids to, you know, go to whatever school they want and maybe have better schools in other neighborhoods. Also is kind of bringing up the point of promoting. You know, you send your kid to like a good school and a parent comes out and is like, oh, where does your kid go on the bus every day? And then you're telling them about this amazing school, that your kid has all these opportunities, your kid has all these resources and stuff, and that's the biggest way to promote. So kind of in that setting, like maybe breaking off kids, you know, having everyone from every different neighborhood can come to like a certain school, that would kind of create more of a, you know, smooth, I guess, or more integrated school, because you're not just promoting out of one neighborhood. I think that this topic, beyond the traditional aspect of education, is a hard one. I just think in general, people, no matter if you want to admit it or not, can be biased, and it's unfortunate that this is the world that we're living in, and as a future educator, this is going to be some topics that I have to deal with. You know, kids, I hope it's getting a little bit better, but at the end of the day, like, we got to break the stereotypes, and we have to integrate, and we have to, you know, make the difference, because if we don't, and we don't educate on that, then it's not very going to be different.